So this is my scope clock, built from a kit that David Forbes designed. I first saw this clock on Matt Techmoan's channel as a Patreon, and I managed to get hold of an early copy before they sold out. And it sat as a kit in my workshop for about 2 years before I finally got around to building it last year. And immediately, even though I started off as a machine code assembly language programmer and then moved on to high level languages and had no C experience, I quickly wanted to have a go at trying to program it. So what I've done is I've added a few clocks. Obviously that's a built-in one, the Pong and the Tetris. But then I started to play with some of these ones and just create new text-based clocks like so. And very quickly got bored of that and started to make some different variations on that. So this is one where it counts down to hundredths of a second. And then I also wanted to try and play around. I've got loads of other clocks. I've got Nixie clocks, I've got vacuum fluorescent display clocks, word clocks and stuff like that. And there was some code in here that David had obviously tried to have a go at, or started to have a go at a 4-letter word clock. And I've got a 4-letter word clock. And my 4-letter word clock used to live in an office, and everybody used to sit and watch the 4-letter word clock. And whenever it swore, people would get really, really giddy that it swore. And I thought, well, let's have all the swears all the time. So this is a clock where for 10 seconds in every minute, it'll display the time. And the other sort of 5 slots of 10 seconds, the other 50 seconds of a minute, it will display 5 different swear words. So it's all swears all the time. Some of them are quite puerile, but it basically just sits and does that. So it's great for when the in-laws come around. And then I kind of moved that because before I retired, I basically sat and worked with text all day and manipulated text. It was kind of what I did. So I set about writing a bot to scrape a dictionary website and take all the 4-letter words it could from that and take all the descriptions of those. And this kind of is the same thing. It does 5 4-letter words every minute, and then 10 seconds it displays the time. But it also has like a description of what that definition of what that word is underneath. And there's 2,400 and something words in here, and it basically just sits there and goes through these. And there is an Easter egg in here. I'm from the north of England, and in case you can't tell from my accent. And basically there's one Easter egg in there, but I'll tell you what that is, so that you can be pleased when you see it. And that's the definition of slag, which is your mum, just for comedy value. So effectively this just sits there and runs through. It's really quite a nice thing to just sort of do. And then that started to become a bit more abstract. So what this does, this basically gives you the time, where the little ball is the hour hand, the big ball is the minute hand, and then the ever-expanding ball is the second. So it kind of mimics the hands of a clock effectively, but it's quite an abstract version of it. And then I wanted to do something that's similar to the clock I have, that's a clock 2, as it was with a Q, that I have, and basically try and say what the time is. So what it's doing at the moment is it's just gone 5 to 3. So like, I'll give you an example. So what it does is it's at 55 minutes past the hour, it would say it was exactly 5 to 3. At 56, it would say it's 5 to 3 because it's only a minute out, so it's not exactly, but it's 5 to 3. At 57 minutes past, it would say it's just gone 5 to 3. And at 58, it would then turn around and say it's nearly 3 o'clock. So it's like, this is what we're approaching now. And then eventually it'll say it is exactly 3 o'clock. So it basically sort of bit by bit, every minute it changes the definition of how it describes the time. Then I wanted to try and play around with some sort of 3D stuff. I've only found out a few weeks ago somebody else had already done a cube modification for this clock. I deliberately set this so that it kind of tells you the date and time like that, and then it basically clicks once every second. And I'm going to blindly talk through this till it gets to the hour. But every 10 minutes on the hour and a half hour, it does a really fast animation. 10 past, 20 past, 22 and 10 to, it does a slower animation, and every other minute in between, it sort of chugs along as it's doing now, where it basically just animates the cube once every second. So we'll just talk amongst ourselves for a second while this eventually clicks over and then suddenly rapidly animates. In fact, I might just click forward and click back again. So then I was kind of fascinated by trying to create I saw somebody who'd done a Tron clock, and I like the idea of trying to do a Tron clock, but I didn't have the chops to do the coding necessary to do that. So I kind of did this as an intermediate thing, but at least we can sort of see the seconds count away as we get closer to 3 o'clock dead on. So this basically just clicks through and does that. So we just click back to here a second, and we'll see that when this reaches 3 o'clock, it'll suddenly animate really quickly, as opposed to 10 past, 20 past and stuff, where it animates fairly slowly. So that's like a little sort of almost a chime thing of it sort of doing something weird on the hour and the half hour. And then decided to create a different sort of analog clock, like so. So this is kind of based on a sort of Swiss clock, where the second hand has a large disc at the end of it. Tried to make this smooth moving, and I may come back to that to try and make it smooth moving, but sort of failed miserably in the success of that. And then this is probably the best clock of them all. This is the random clock. So what that does is it displays random clock for a few seconds, and then it sits there and it will randomly choose one of the clocks on the system, other than Pong and Tetris, because they're not real clocks. And then it'll just, so this is the clock that you see now. This is the clock for 3 o'clock. You leave it alone, come back in 4 o'clock, it'll be a different clock. So this is fantastic. The system actually has a built-in screensaver. You might not realise that, but when you align it, David's code sort of subtly moves the beam around so that you don't get sort of phosphor burn. But this is not only a great way of avoiding phosphor burn, because it changes the clock every hour, but it's also nice that every time you walk past it, there's a different clock on the face of it. So that's quite cool as well. And I've also implemented a thing so that I think between the hours of 1 and 5 in the morning, it kind of turns off. So, you know, that again is a way of sort of, it's not user editable, but you know, I figure that you don't really need to see it between those hours. I could, at some point, I might add some code to sort of set what the start and end time of that downtime is between those. And obviously, if I turn this now, I'm back to where I was within that dial. So it's kind of like it's not. It's the randomness has been turned off now. So it basically just carries on to that until we get back to random, and we get a different clock for the hour and so on. So that's it. It's kind of like an ongoing project, this. I've had to sort of draw a line at some point and say, well, I'm going to do a video about it. But this is kind of where I'm up to. I'm determined to keep doing more clocks and do more exciting things. So yeah, it's not going to be forgotten about. Yeah, it's basically an ongoing project.